Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I have with me our fantastic returning champion, the director of social media for Uriah Heep, Dave White. Dave, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, Scott. How are you?
I'm great now that we've survived the last 20 minutes of technical issues.
Well, I'm glad we got it worked out. It did take a while, didn't it?
Me too. And fortunately, this is a great song. It's worth going through all of that. This is actually the second shortest song on the album. It's just under 4 minutes. Most of them have been averaging about 4.5 to 5.
I love this tune. I seriously do. It's powerful. It's right to the point. It's got great vocal. I love this song.
And I'll just say, just having heard the opening while we were doing the audio testing, the bass drum on this is just, it's punchy. It's in your chest. It's exactly where a bass drum should be in a rock song.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, if you are ready to give it a go, I am.
I'm ready to go.
Let's do it. Oh, I guess I should announce the song. It's see, I'm all thrown off of my game today.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. So it's a 2-subtitle song. The actual title to the song is Fires of Hell, Your Only Son. And then, as has been traditional on this album, the additional subtitle is The Futility of War, which is a song that they really kind of covered this topic in Como y Melinda.
This is the story of the Battle of Somme. This is a soldier's, I think, letter to his father as he knows he's going into battle that day or that evening. And it's World War I, and it's the British and the French against the German army. And he's just a ground soldier. And this is his letter. The lyrics are his letter.
Wow. Is this an actual letter or like a letter that was based on something?
I don't think it's an actual letter,
okay.
But I don't know. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. But I think the last time, and I could be wrong, there might have been something since then. Actually, yeah, there have been a couple songs where they talked about the futility of war. So it is kind of a common theme for Uriah Heep to cover this topic.
They've done it before. That's correct.
That they have. Well, let's see how they did it this time. Here it is.
All right.
Fires of Hell. Okay, before we even get into the guitars or anything else, that is the most killer drum sound this band has had since the beginning.
It's coming out of everywhere at the same time. It's great.
It is, and it's a great balance of snare and kick drum. That's so important. The hi-hats are just a little quiet, but they get really tinny, so when they're too loud, they can be really annoying. But it kind of reminds me of a song called Broken Promises by the Michael Schenker Group that Graham Bonnet sang on. And it has that same kind of intro, just a slightly different beat, but just that really in-your-face drum sound. And it's going to be interesting to see how that sound changes as the rest of the instruments come in.
I think it will. For sure.
Definitely. Well, let's hear how. Yeah. See, now I can't even speak. All right. From now on.
At least I'm not the director of social media.
Yeah, I did say that one time, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Well, that's how it goes.
Carry on.
Here we go.
We're good.
Well, that's a nice technical little opening.
Yeah. You've got everything. You got the grind of the organ. You've got a little bit of synth in there also. The drums are right where they were. Maybe a hair louder. Bass is awesome. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool.
And it's a very progressive part. But we do notice for sure that the kick drum is not as in your face because it's starting to share frequencies with other sounds.
Right.
But that organ sound is fantastic. And I would have said a week ago, that this was a Hammond. But when I interviewed Phil, I think he had already switched to the Nord by this point.
I don't know how old his Nord is, or if he's on the first one still. It could be the Nord. I think the Leslie's for real, but I'm not sure that the keyboard is a Hammond organ.
Either way, it sounds great, though, doesn't it?
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's hear what else he does. Well, I meant to stop it a little bit earlier, but my player locked up. I love the what they're playing over the verse, because they're leaving some room for the singer, but they're also kind of taking up a lot of space with some dynamics that you wouldn't normally hear on a verse.
Yeah, he's got spaces in there just for him. This is really cool the way they pulled this off. There's room for Bernie. Everything, they'll stop playing, it dies out for a millisecond, and he's all by himself for 2 seconds, and then they come in again. It's really, really crafty. I like the way they did that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting balance of sound, because, you know, a lot of times during a verse, you're just playing long chords, maybe a little bit of a rhythm to it. But here it's just kind of like, it adds the progressive part, but it also gives that open space. It's really a unique way to write a song.
You know, this is the quintessential, I'm going to kick you in the face, Uriah Heep. This is like really heavy duty. But it's not, you know, like what do I want to say, heavy metal type sound. It's Uriah Heep sound being heavy metal.
Yeah, it's got the edge to it, but it's definitely, you know, more melodic than anything else. Yeah. Well, let's get back to it. You know, those guitars do sound really big in the mix, though.
Don't they? You know, they definitely doubled. I think he's playing on a Les Paul, because he had a Yamaha at this time that he was playing a lot live. And it was kind of like a Strat, but it also had a Floyd on it. So I don't think he used that in this song. I think this was a Les Paul. That line I could not remember when I started to talk about the meaning of the lyrics. It's how the war is wrong, and so I write these words before I give my life to the Somme. So there it is. It actually was a letter being written. Wow.
Well, you know, to get to the guitars for a second, it's just got a really rich, deep sound too. Sometimes he's backed off of the low end, Mick has, but in this one, the guitar is just like full body.
And Trevor's right with him. You know, the bass line for the guitars is the bass line for the bass.
Yeah.
In quite a bit of this.
And I have to think that would be a lot harder to play on bass than guitar. That would not be a comfortable lick, I would think.
Yeah, he was a marvelous bass player, so you never know. He might just. I mean, I'm pretty sure Trevor wrote this.
Let's see. According to it looks like he did. According to the lyric sheet I have, but it's a tough one on bass, or it feels like it would be a tough one. Maybe not. I mean, he's such a pro. I'm such a beginner. Like, I will be a beginner bass player until the end of time. But he definitely is better than I am.
Well, I'm not a bass player. I can see it being done on the guitar.
Yeah,
bass. I can't imagine if it's difficult or not. Have to ask one of our Heapster bass player friends to chime in.
Yeah, there you go. When I get to Davey, I'll have to ask him, because he may have played this song at some point.
Could be.
All right. You know, there's got to be at least 3 tracks of Bernie over top of everyone else singing that.
Why do you say that?
Because his voice is still predominant, but it sounds like he's singing in a chorus, And I think that the rest of the guys are backing him up, but I think like they really laid his voice over the top of the harmony.
You think he's harmonizing with himself?
I think he is. I think there's at least 2 to 3 tracks of just Bernie.
Wouldn't you love to know? That's interesting concept.
Yeah, I'll have when I get a chance to speak with him, I'll have to ask him how they recorded at this point, because it sounds like it's a bunch of people singing, but it also feels like it's just topped off with his voice. Like maybe they just put him a little bit louder, and everyone else is kind of used to thicken it instead of the way that they used to do it. Because they're not really doing a lot of harmonies like they used to.
I was listening to the bass just now while we were listening to that section.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be a piece of cake for Trevor. It's actually it's not difficult, and it's really powerful. I think he probably loved playing it.
Yeah, I think
that's a cool bass line. Yeah, for sure. It's a cool bass line.
I'm thinking more along the terms of like the fret hand, because the frets are further apart. Of course, he had pretty long fingers.
Yeah.
Which helps.
He really tugged at those strings too. I mean, you see him do, stuff on video. He was and live. He was really tugging at it. He was a powerful string puller, and he was fast. When he wanted to be fast, he was fast. This is semi-fast in places, and it's not your long drawn out root chord bass playing. He's all over the place with this. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's some really good stuff. And the other thing I like about it too is that there's so much going on, but it's not based on a fast tempo.
Not at all. It's solid, and it's kind of like drawing you in. It's hard to explain. It just grabs you and draws you along with it. Is how I feel about this.
Well, there's so much to pay attention to. It's like, okay, I'm going to focus on the guitar. Oh, what did the bass just do? Wait a minute, what are the organs doing?
That's why we have rewind.
Oh, thank God. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Okay, I changed my mind. He did that in 2 parts. The first half of that solo, I think, was a Les Paul. The second half had a whammy bar, because that last note is definitely a whammy bar doing that. That last long note of the entire solo, I think that's a different guitar than the first guitar.
I was going to ask you about that, because I didn't think you could necessarily pull that off with a Floyd Rose.
Not the way he just did it.
Yeah. I love his sound, though. I mean, the level of distortion that he has is really great for making it thick and heavy, but it also doesn't intrude on those higher notes. It sounds good at all velocity.
Yeah. They're all, I mean, you can distinguish every string. You can distinguish every tone that he's trying to do in his chords. That's Mick at his finest, but he just comes in 80 miles an hour and goes for it. It's a really well put together lead too, because it isn't all over the place, and it isn't one of these ones that starts slow and builds because there isn't enough time for it.
Yeah,
he just comes in and goes. I think it's perfectly well done.
I would agree, and he's so good at that. Even when he is just playing like some gentle rhythms in the background or just some chords, and then he just comes in and explodes with this solo. Like he's just been sitting there waiting for it. He's so well crafted in his work, the way that he keeps it tasteful to the song, but can also go anywhere he wants. And it doesn't lose the context. Like so many guitar players don't seem to get that.
You got it. The guitar solo has got to be part of the vocal. I mean, it's the same type of thing. You're playing a melody, and if somewhere in there you are mimicking the vocal melody, it doesn't have to be the whole thing, obviously, of course, but a lot of songs, especially ones like this, he's just like, he's right there, but I don't think he's going for the mimicking of the vocal. He's just coming in, and it's I don't know, it's on top of everything. It's fast, it's dirty. He's not trying to be gentle. It's a good lead. It's a good Mick lead.
It's almost like he says to the singer, and I'm not going to pick on Bernie in particular because he does this to everybody. It's like he says, that's cool what you're doing, kid. Why don't you just sit down and I'll show you how it's done.
Just step back a bit, buddy.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And then he's like, all right, now I've said my piece. I'll go back to playing rhythm now.
I would guarantee you that is I don't know. It's a 100-watt Marshall, but I'm sure it's like one fuzz box or something and a wah. and that's it. There's not a whole lot going on with it. It's crystal clear too.
It is. I have to think they had at least 2 mics on it though.
Yeah. A couple of SM57s maybe, or something close to them, because it sounds like they're right on top of the cone, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. Anyway, that's, I mean, I just can't ask for more out of the guy. You know?
I know.
The Viper song, and it will play for me before this day is done. So I will hold my head up high if I must give my life to stop their raging guns.
Now, for those of you that are listening that aren't audio engineers, which I would imagine is the majority of the audience, we were talking earlier about how when the song started, the bass drum was very powerful, how the music was going to come in and kind of mute that a little bit. If you go back and listen to this verse, you can hear the bass drum on its own, and then you can hear it buried under the music and hear what a difference it is. There's no change in the bass drum recording whatsoever. It's that difference of fighting frequencies. You know, Dave, you mix your own music. You know how that goes.
Yeah, you don't. I never consciously lower the bass drum on anything. It just lowers. I think it's perception. It's perception. There's all these other frequencies coming in along with it. Some are on top of it, some are next to it on both sides, and that's exactly what's happening here. I don't think they changed it a whole lot. It's just the way that you're hearing it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's you're hearing one frequency by itself, and then you're hearing a bunch of frequencies together. And it changes the sound of those single frequencies. If you heard any of those instruments by themselves, they would sound differently.
Yeah, it seems to come out when everybody else quits. And then when they start up, it goes back in again. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I just, I point that out as just so that our listeners can understand what I was talking about in the beginning of the show. And, I like to offer a little bit of audio engineer experience every once in a while.
Makes it very dramatic when that happens too, because you're listening to this song that's kicking ass all the way through the song. And then you get this break, and then that break is that bass drum. Mm-hmm. And it's much more than it's much louder, it appears, than anything else was up until that point. Then it goes back and fades back in again. It just fits. That's all I can say.
It really does. In. This song breathes very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I could also see that as Lee Kerslake going, I'll teach you to play over me.
Now there's 2 of them fighting with Bernie. So I don't know about this. So far we have Mick fighting, going, hey kid, back up, and now Lee's coming in. So,
right, yeah. And yet the band stays together.
This has to have been a great song to record because it is powerful.
Yeah, I would have to think that even just when they set up and just started recording it, they just had to look at each other and go, this sounds really good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this will be great. They're going to love it.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, I love that tone that Phil's playing in the background there that just kind of cuts through a little bit between the words.
You really think that's a Nord?
I don't think that's the Nord. I think that's a synth. Because it doesn't sound Hammond-y. It just sounds like a pad, like a string pad.
The one that when he did the line, where is it? Hang on for a second. I'm reading the lyrics. I love the song so much. I don't know where it is. Oh, I Can Hear the Piper song. Mm-hmm. About 4 from the bottom, 4 lyric sections up. That's got a droning like bagpipe thing in there for a few seconds. That's really cool how they did that. It's kind of like like when you have a police brigade and there's a funeral, a law enforcement mm-hmm. funeral, and they'll do bagpipes. They do that, obviously you do that in the armed forces as well. That's something he did, I think, right there on purpose, because when I can hear the Piper's song, obviously, so I think right in that, and it's just that one line of lyrics.
Well, that's one of the things I've always loved about his playing, though, is that he'll find those little touches that seem very subtle, but when you pick up on them, they make a big difference in the song. A lot of times you hear them or feel them without really knowing that you've perceived it. But I mean, what a classic wartime sound, the pipes, especially during World War I.
I can't imagine he wouldn't have had some kind of a Hammond in the studio if he had any choice at all. Yeah. So I think in that section, what we're hearing is a Hammond organ. It might be in other places, but right there, right where we just were, I'm pretty sure that's a Hammond. They're unmistakable.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even, and Ken Hensley and I talked about this, like there's only so much you can do to simulate that real rotation of a Leslie and that full body of a Hammond organ.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Always very tasteful stuff. Wow, that's a powerful ending.
Isn't that great?
It is. I mean, you think about things like people being in war and how suddenly it can be over. And that's such a powerful ending to complement that concept, especially knowing that he's, written this letter to his dad saying, this might be it.
I wonder if that wasn't intentional.
I think it had to be.
Because they could have done it. They could have done it has a little bit of just a hair of an echo on it. But if they really chopped it like mid word, that might have the illustration behind that might have been pretty powerful as well.
Yeah, that would have left you feeling just so helpless at the end. If you can't even get that last word out and it's over.
Yeah, and you fall off the cliff. Yeah, I mean, audio wise, you would just stop. You would just like, what happened? What did they do?
And
but that would make sense.
I'd be playing with the filters and the envelopes, trying to get that rest of that word out, because that's how I am.
Trying to grab it from nowhere.
Right. Yep.
Copy it from there and see if I can find the right place and stick it back on the end. Yeah, for sure.
Or just re-record it. But but speaking of effects, there have been a few really well placed and subtle delays on Bernie's vocal, just on a word at the end of a line. And then at the end here, we had a little bit of flange on it, seeking a little bit of a change. They are so tasteful in the way that they do not overplay effects in this band.
I know. They're engineers, they're producers, the guys that are, saying, let's try this, let's try that. And I'm sure a lot of this was predetermined when they went in. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how much of the song that they would have rehearsed ahead of time, with all the bells and whistles that it finally ended up with. Mm-hmm. But those are things that are put in that are just marvelously done. I mean, you can't imagine the song not having them. Yeah. It would lose the impact in those places.
Well, I don't think that you'd really get the full feeling of the story. Those things, when you put them in there, they really bring out so much of the reality of the world that this person is living in. You're right. Without that, it would just be like, me telling you, hey, so there was this guy and he wrote this letter to his dad. Like there wouldn't be anything in it.
Yeah. I would have loved to have been in the studio watching this one. That must have been something. Maybe they were overdubbed 3 times or 4 times or 8 times, but I'll bet every time they did something, it was great to listen to it. This is a really cool song.
It really is. It is probably the most progressive riff I've heard from the band up to this point too.
It's excellent. Yeah. There's a song on an album, which I won't mention yet, because I'm sure you and I will do it too together, about the Battle of Wounded Knee. And you'll find out about that when we get to it. If you're not aware of what that is yet, where do we hear this one together?
All right.
It is incredible. It's almost like this, sort of, kind of, but not really. But it's great.
Well, I'm already sold. If you're going to compare it to this song, I love this song. I think it's amazing. It's definitely awesome. a different type of music for Uriah Heep. They haven't really done anything quite like this at this point, but I think it also opens a door, because if you look at the kind of stuff they're doing now that is a little bit more progressive riff-wise, it kind of makes sense that you might look back at a song like this and go, this was pretty cool. We should do something else like that.
I'm not sure how they imagine coming in with all these songs for audition, and you're trying to get them past the band to the point that they agree they want to record them. This one must have been really, really a wide, like a eye opener. This will be great. Can you imagine us doing this? This will be outstanding. And away they go.
And I always go back to thinking, well, what is it exactly that the writer came into the band with? Did he just have a riff? Did he have the whole song put together? Was it somewhere in between? I asked Phil when I was interviewing him about that, and he said his songs, when he brings them in, they pretty much stay the same as he envisioned them. Everybody's going to put a little touch on it. Russell's going to put his drum fills in there, but it doesn't surprise me because he really thinks about the overall song. I can't imagine they wouldn't be happy most of the time with what he comes up with.
That's what he said on your interview.
Yeah.
If you hear one acoustic guitar and a voice, and if you can get it, then imagine what you can come up with when you really try to make it something else.
Yeah.
And this may have been that way. I mean, I can imagine this being done on piano. And he'd come with a piano and say, this is what we're going to do. Just check this one out. It's percussive, and they could have turned it into this song, and they could have done it on an acoustic. I don't think probably on an acoustic guitar, but a piano, you could do it on electric guitar. You could audition this. But I just would have loved to have been there when they recorded this one. This is so great.
Okay. You want to think piano. Think about this. The way that they ended, I think it was it Love and Silence, where there was just that one drone at the end. Imagine you had that hard strike, like A Day in the Life by the Beatles, and it just cut off like the vocals did in this. I mean, that would have a really big impact too. So I could see your argument for piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it's a fantastic song. I totally see why you picked this one.
Totally one of my favorites, man. I just love it.
Yeah. Another fantastic song by one of my favorite bands. And, these guys, they just come up with things that every song I've done, and I've done over 200 songs now, and I still listen to them and go, I can't believe they came up with that.
How do you find the time? Because if it was me, I'd hit rewind about 13 times during the course of the song just to get some more feeling on it. This got to take you hours to do these things. Where do you find the time to do this?
Well, I don't sleep.
Oh, there you go.
There are a lot of parts that before I give my commentary on them, I'll go back and listen to them several times because I might want to pick out, like this time I want to hear what Trevor's doing. That time I want to hear what Phil's doing. It's harder when the mixes aren't as great, when the panning is all to the center. But it really only takes me for like a 20-minute episode. It probably takes me about 40 minutes to do it.
Okay.
It's not too bad. Yeah. Even with songs I've never heard.
As long as you don't sleep, you're fine.
Yeah. Well, it's such a waste of production time.
I've texted with you at 4 a.m. I know what it's like. You're always up.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, my friend,
hey, thank you.
Thank you. This was a great episode to do. I always love when you come on the show. You have such great insight because you've known the band. You've seen a lot of the technical side of things that I don't see. And as a songwriter and performer yourself, you have a great perspective on this. So thank you, as always, for coming on and sharing.
Well, thank you, sir. I will ask Mick about those 2 guitars in his solo because I am sure that last note is not a Gibson. We'll find out.
Let me know.
I'll let you know. I'll text you at 4 a.m.
I'll be up. Have a great one, my friend.
All right, Scott.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hang on there. Love the show. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Yep. Bye now.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!